Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. It seems it's getting a bit hot in here. Getting a bit hot in these chambers today. Mr. Speaker, sir, Honourable Prime Minister, Honourable Leader of the Opposition, Honourable Attorney General and Minister for the Economy, Ministers, Members of Parliament, people of Fiji. Mr. Speaker, sir, I fully support this budget. It is a budget for the times. It is apt, it is appropriate, and it not only addresses the issues of today, it also sets Fiji on a course that will lead to our full recovery. And I think today in this Parliament we have seen that some people are seeing the light. We invite everybody else, see the light, get into the light. There are, Mr. Speaker, sir, a number of distinct hallmarks of this budget that need to be highlighted. First of all, the budget addresses the short-term immediate needs through inflation mitigation. It provides relief to the most vulnerable in Fiji. And, Mr. Speaker, sir, sitting here this week and listening to some of the comments made by members of the opposition talking about the budget, it has been astounding. Their comments have shown their true colors. They just rubbish everything in this budget. They refer to our past policies of helping to lift up and looking after our most vulnerable as freebies. They refer to them as freebies. They say over and over again, government needs to look at the plight of the most vulnerable in our country. They say it over and over again. And then they say that government does not understand the plight of our needy citizens. And then in the same instant, they belittle what we are proposing in this budget to address that exact issue. The thing that they complain about, we address, and they belittle that too. I will not call them idiots. I will just say that is incredibly idiotic. Incredibly idiotic. That is two-faced, forked tongue speaking. And it would be hilarious if it were not such a serious matter. They belittle what government has been doing this past few years to address the plight of our most challenged citizens. Over the past few years, we have witnessed never before seen the assistance through social welfare for those who really need it. These are the provisions for the most vulnerable in society. Communities used to have to pay a deposit in order to get EFL grid extension. No more. No more. Is the opposition saying that all above the age of 65 who are getting a social pension should not get that social pension? Our uncles and our aunts in the villages, is that what they're saying? Are they saying that we should not have paid the 360 and the 50 and the unemployment benefits to those who lost their jobs during COVID? Are they saying that they should be left to fend for themselves? These members of the opposition are saying that they want to remove that assistance from those who need it. They are saying the assistance should never have been given. They are implying that if they come into power, God forbid, that they would remove all that assistance. That is what the people of this country must listen to, and this is what they are saying. That is what they are telling the vulnerable people of this country. They are saying that the $1 per day or the $30 per month per child should not be given to our most vulnerable children. That is what they are saying. If you call it the freebie, that is what you are saying. They are saying that we should not assist our most vulnerable children. That is what they mean when they call inflation mitigation measures freebies. They are saying, doing away with it. Let them sink or swim.
Point of order. You have a point of order.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Sir, I raise a point of order regarding misleading statement he made that we said that social welfare should not be paid. Nobody said that. Nobody said that.
What's your point of order?
The statement is misleading. It's false. That's the point of order. It should be withdrawn.
Honourable Minister, you've heard what is being said. Take note of that. You have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Sir, when you say something, you have to think about the implication of what you say. If you say that support to vulnerable people is a freebie, you're saying that it is something that should not be given. And that is precisely what I'm saying. That is precisely what I'm saying. Carefully formulated policies to assist our most vulnerable. They are saying, do away with it. Let them sink or swim. They are saying, let them suffer. This is the quality of this opposition. This is their true color, Mr. Speaker, sir. Forked tongue, Mr. Speaker, sir. Forked tongue, two-faced, shameless. In the same breath, they say government does not care, and they rubbish what we propose in this budget to address the issues that they have highlighted. Means-tested subsidies for electricity and water. School bus fares the children don't have to pay. Not having to pay for school fees. Textbooks, free medicine, unemployment assistance of hundreds of millions of dollars. Free GP services. Market vendors not having to pay the stall fees. Payment of license fees by government. They call all of these things freebies. They are implying that all of these things should be taken away, that our most vulnerable should fend for themselves. They do not care what happens to the vulnerable people of this country. The second hallmark, Mr. Speaker, sir, the second hallmark of this budget is that it maintains continuity and consistency with past policy and direction. It continues our focus of encouraging investment. It gives investors assurance that our past policies will continue, thus building confidence. Building confidence. Very critical in these global difficult times, when investment is hard to come by and when global investors are very choosy about where to invest. And the third hallmark of this budget is that it chooses to invest in areas that will lead to growth and returns in the future. A very strong focus on infrastructure, on building a stronger, more amenable climate for investment, which leads to jobs, better jobs, income, and therefore better quality of life. Mr. Speaker, sir, the Ministry of Infrastructure and Meteorological Services will receive a budget of $37.6 million, an increase of 58%. This will help the different departments of the Ministry, Energy, Water, the Works Department, the Directorate of Building and Government Architecture, and the Fiji Met Services to be able to deliver its jobs, sir. Climate change is having a massive impact on our infrastructure, and government is focused on resilient infrastructure. Over the last 9 years, government has invested an amount of $21.3 million to improve and ensure safe and secure safe and healthy living facilities for our public building tenants. In this budget, there is a fund of $1 million that is allocated to improve the Nambawalu powerhouse and also to upgrade maritime government buildings. The ministry will ensure that buildings are constructed to standards that are resilient and can withstand climatic changes. Our national energy targets, Mr. Speaker, sir, targets of getting 100% access to electricity by the year 2026. By 2017, we had achieved access to electricity of 96% of our population, up from 89% in 2007. Getting all of our electricity from renewable energy by the year 2036, and achieving net zero carbon emissions by 2050. But the provision of electricity has a lot of major challenges, especially after the restrictions that came in place during COVID-19. Our contractors were not able to mobilize to the project sites to complete the projects. There was shortage of materials in the market due to the closing down of suppliers, mostly from China, and delays in the shipment of materials to Fiji. The Department of Energy and EFL were not able to travel to project sites to carry out the inspections and to verify the work that is being undertaken. Despite this, we still managed to deliver and provide quality services to our people, and we have remained committed to meeting the total cost of all rural electrification projects. In the past 10 years, Mr. Speaker, sir, government has allocated around $237 million for rural electrification, for grid extension, for house wiring projects, and for solar home systems. This is a massive investment. For 22 to 23, the Department of Energy has been allocated a budget of $13.8 million. $5.7 million for house wiring for projects where the grid projects have already been completed. This will electrify a total of 4,200 homes. $4 million for the installation of solar home systems, benefiting 1,000 homes in rural areas and maritime islands that do not have access to the EFL grid. and we are working on ways of introducing and implementing programs for energy efficiency and conservation to reduce carbon emissions. A total of $20,000 has been allocated for this. A further $19.28 million will be provided to EFL via Head 50 for grid extension and house wiring. The benefits of this investment are far-reaching for daily living and also for generating income, creating sustainable livelihoods, and increasing the productive capacity of our people. The Fiji Meteorological Services has been given a budget of $4.09 million, and of that, $500,000 is allocated for disaster recovery infrastructure system to reduce disruptions, recover as quickly as possible, and ensure business continuity in the event of a disaster. The $2 million upgrade of the Nosori radar will improve forecasting and highlight areas of likely extreme rainfall and the thunderstorms that will impact us. Improving weather forecasts is very important. It helps all of us, farmers, citizens, everybody. The 240,000 water level and rainfall equipment project is crucial to the Fiji Met, as water level monitoring allows them to deliver early and advanced warning of any likely flood situation and provides valuable time to protect assets, to move valuables and protect property. Water Authority of Fiji has been given a budget of $204 million, an increase of $9 million. And all this will assist WAF in moving towards the targets that we have in our 5 to 20-year National Development Plan, and also SDG 6, which is all about access to water and sanitation. Currently, just over 80% of the total population has access to clean drinking water, whilst 28% of the population has access to WAF, wastewater services. $11 million is allocated to address intermittent water supply areas nationwide. And this, of course, is something that has been in the news over the past few months. This will eliminate 9 intermittent supply areas, including in the Central Division, Wrong Turn in Sakoda, Burbasanga Village, Thombati Koro, Cunningham Stage 4, Tovata areas, elevated areas of the southern part of Nandi and Sonai Sali, Udiwai to Yako Village in the Western Division. These intermittent supply area projects will enable more than 7,000 people to receive normal water pressure 24/7 in the comfort of their home. $5.5 million is allocated to address leakages through pressure management, service pipe replacement, and boundary valve replacements and demand management with the aim to reduce non-revenue water by 5% nationwide. $4.9 million allocated to provide access to clean water to rural communities, benefiting more than 20,000 people. This includes the Buriwai district, Nawairuku village in Ra, Naulu Watu village in Netasiri, Ndriti, Ntailevu, Budalevu combined scheme also in Madwata. $3.5 million is allocated for water cutting to rural communities in non-metered areas during periods of water disruption. $5.5 million allocated for electrical works at WEF's water pump and wastewater stations to ensure that backup gensets are installed at critical sites to ensure water is supplied to customers during periods of power shutdowns. $300,000 will be utilized to continue the improvement of catchment areas to ensure our water sources are protected and secured for water sustainability. $1 million is allocated for a rainwater harvesting program. This will include the provision of 2,500-litre water tanks, including, and WEF will also make the arrangement for the base use for these water tanks. $4.5 million for integrated water management, meter management, aimed at replacing 15,000 residential meters nationwide to bring about billing accuracy. And $60.3 million allocated for the completion of Phase 1 of the new Rewa River Water Supply Scheme project to address water challenges and to support sustainable growth and development in the greater Suva area. This scheme will provide an additional 40 million litres of water in the Lami to Nosori corridor, benefiting over 360,000 people. It is scheduled to come online next year. $5 million is allocated for the installation of pipelines from Sawani to Navatubula to Waitolu to ensure that those communities live along these areas have access to this clean drinking water when the new Rewa River Water Scheme is commissioned. And $3.15 million is allocated for wastewater system improvements and upgrades, which include sewer network extensions for Waindamundamu in Kornivia, Yalaha Pump Station construction in Singatoka. And this includes major wastewater critical pipes replacement at crossings on roads and bridges in the Central Division that will address aged infrastructure that we still have. And for the next financial year, a key WEF focus area will be non-revenue water reduction through revamping pressure management and leak detection activities. This will further reduce the non-revenue water levels by 5%, increasing water supply production capacity by 10% to cater for increasing demand. Increase wastewater treatment capacity and automation of the water and wastewater systems to increase efficiency and optimize operations. WEF is now developing its Water Sector Strategy 2050. This will outline Fiji's water sector priority projects and programs over the next 3 decades. This is aimed at transforming how services are delivered, responding to climate vulnerability, further renewing our water and wastewater infrastructure, and contributing to the circular economy, taking the water sector to net zero emissions and enhancing the natural environment. And all of these activities will complement the things that we've already done. As the Attorney General has talked about, WEF has already acquired the Mombi pipeline that will now provide water to people in that area, around 4,000 households in that area, complements all the other work that has been going on. At the moment that I'm speaking, we are completing the new 20 megaliter package plant being built at Nangando. We have new water treatment plants about to commission, 20 megaliter YY plant in Ba, 5 megaliter sub-summer plant, the planned 3 megaliter plant for Nambuwalu, and 1 megaliter plant for Wunindawa. And we're also doing work on the islands. Right now, there's now water on Moturiki that is sourced from Ovalau. From Navoloa comes under the sea, and now all the villages in Moturiki are getting this water. That project is about to be commissioned in the not too distant future. $376.7 million is provided to FRA, an increase of $38.5 million. Mr. Speaker, sir, the main effort is on the seal roads, where $60 million has been allocated to ensure essential maintenance of FRA road assets. The budget will allow FRA to execute the second phase of the road improvement through its RIP and Remake program. The second phase will give resilience to the roads. The second coat of the seal will protect the road pavement from rainfall intensity that is brought about by climate change and provide resilience for 3 to 6 years. A budget provision of $162 million will also allow Fiji Roads Authority to continue with its critical bridge replacement program, which is to replace all bridges that are coming to the end of their serviceable life. There are 10 bridges under construction, 1 in the tender stage, 40 in design stage, and 60 in the pre-feasibility stage. And to improve the inter-island services by sea, Fiji Roads Authority is designing improvements and replacements for 9 jetties through this budget. And these will come into construction from the next financial year. Fiji Roads Authority is also putting a lot more effort in preparing the transport infrastructure investment sector project so that during construction there are no unwarranted disruptions. To facilitate this, the government has inserted $145,000 to allow provisions for pre-feasibility studies, feasibility studies, and design in this budget. Mr. Speaker, sir, the Ministry of Lands and Mineral Resources has been allocated a total budget of $25.9 million, an increase of 1.87, and this budget will be used to further the Ministry's drive to ensure that state land is used productively and made available for housing needs, for business and tourism development, for conducting of surveys, consumption of safe and clean drinking groundwater. Some of the initiatives the Ministry is pursuing include, first, the development of a leased digital platform that is supported by the digitization of lease records. The first phase will be launched at the end of this calendar year. Second, the development of streamlined process of survey plan examination and approvals. The Ministry will also enable chartered approved survey plans to be viewed online via the Vanua View platform, and scanned plans will be freely available on the Ministry of Lands website. Third, enhancement in Fiji's navigation system through the updating of Fiji's geodetic datum to comply with international standards. This ensures that Fiji is consistent with other countries in its shipping, aviation, communication, and integration of geospatial information. Fourth, to boost development and fast-track land survey, the Ministry will be purchasing latest upgraded survey equipment that it needs. Fifth, free access to the Vanua View online from 1st August 2022. Members of the public will have free access to this online portal. Sixth, State land leases are also being required to register. State land lessees are also being required to register on the My Lease info platform, as rental invoices and statements will no longer be sent out via post with immediate effect. The My Lease info app is accessible via mobile phones. Seventh, the adoption of electronic modes of payment, such as online payments, FPOS, M-Pesa, with other modes to be adopted in the near future for greater efficiency and better customer service. Mr. Speaker, sir, 2 weeks ago, the Ministry of Lands and Mineral Resources handed over an extension of the Special Mining Lease, SML, to Line 1 Limited for the Tuvatu Gold Mine. This is a company that has already invested $140 million into this venture. Before it sells an ounce of gold, it has already invested $140 million. There's about 200 people being employed by the company. With this special mining lease, they will inject between $50 to $100 million into this venture. This is a sign of investor confidence in investing in Fiji, which will aid the country's economic recovery and boost the impact of the mining sector to Fiji's GDP. We also have a provision for the digitization of Fiji's geological information. This will cater for the digitalization and updating of geological maps that were published between the 1960s to the 1980s. The land use master plan that is being developed in the ministry will support the vision of government in building a better and resilient Fiji for all Fijians. The plan will assist the Department of Lands to properly identify and plan the usage of prime state land, monitor and control illegal developments such as squatting on state land. And it includes identifying vacant state land for investment by both locals and foreign investors. The Land Bank is a land reform initiative to complement the TLTB in making land more accessible to people. It allows attractive lease terms to encourage more investment in such land, all of which is done with the best interests of the landowners, the tenants, and for optimal returns to both Fiji and landowners. Ministry of Lands also contributes to water distribution through the reticulation of groundwater resources in the maritime islands and the remote drought-stricken rural areas of Fiji. This initiative is supported through the provision of $2.676 million for the groundwater assessment and development for large and small islands. Mr. Speaker, sir, the Mineral Resources Department has upgraded all of its seismic stations. Under the 22 to 23 budget, a sum of $300,000 is provided for a backup system and spare parts for our seismic network. This strengthens and builds resilience in our earthquake and tsunami detection capability, seismic data management, and the timely dissemination of earthquake information to the public. The budget also allows us to co-share satellite services through Intelsat, based in Washington, to monitor seismic activities and operations. Ministry has allocated $80,000 for the provision of geotech work through the assessments of geohazards, landslides, and relocation sites to make sure that we build in the right place. And the ministry has been collating data on landslides in Fiji, and this budget will allow us to put together a landslide inventory for Fiji, which will help us to develop landslide susceptibility maps, which in turn allows better decision-making to minimize as much as possible the economic and human losses that we can face. Mr. Speaker, sir, over the past few days, there have been a lot of things that have been said in this particular House. I'd just like to turn to some of the comments that have been made. The Honourable Tikundundua suggested that $1 per day is the total assistance that government provides for our vulnerable children. He tried to compare that to the allowance that people, that ministers or the Prime Minister gets when they move offshore, to say this $1 per day is the total amount of money that government provides for the vulnerable children. I think that is absolute rubbish. Government assistance to vulnerable children starts before birth. It starts before birth. Assistance is given to pregnant mothers, food vouchers, free health care, free birth certificates, free education, free transport to schools, free textbooks, social welfare assistance to families and children, subsidy for water and electricity, free medicine, free access to GPs, and the list goes on and on and on. This is all the kind of assistance that is given to the vulnerable children that we have in Fiji. The Honourable Bulnauda made fun of the assistance that is given by government in providing boats to those that request this. That is something that he needs to say to the children who have to cross streams to get to schools and whose lives are put at risk. This government is there for safe transport, for conserving lives, for helping people make progress in their lives. The Honorable Leawere says we are surrendering our sovereignty at our national seaports. Absolute hogwash. We have partnered with Aitken Spence to run the ports, but the ports still belong to Fiji. The ports still belong to Fiji. And in so doing, we have seen massive improvements in efficiency and effectiveness of our ports, a critical requirement to grow investment and trade and economic growth. The Honourable Leader of the Opposition says Fiji should not try to compare with Singapore, nor to try and be better than Australia and New Zealand. We say, why not? Why not? Why not? Why should we not reach for the stars? Why should we not work to make our tomorrow better than our today? Why not? Why should we not make the Fiji of our grandchildren better than our Fiji of today? Why not? Why dream small? We need to dream big. It is through innovation, investment, effective utilization of resources, and dynamic, powerful leadership that you will improve, ensure growth, and truly leave no one behind. Mr. Speaker, sir, this government does not sell anyone short. We will not sell our people short. Unlike we have heard thus far from the opposition, this government, this party, this leader thinks our people deserve the best. They deserve the best. We have been doing that for the past 8 years under the Fiji First government and the 8 years before that under the Bainimarama government. Mr. Speaker, sir, I totally and unreservedly support the 2022-2023 budget.
Honourable members, we move on.